All right, welcome to another edition of IOHL, the IOHL show. Soup Forever here. With me, we got Dvetts. Dvetts, how's it going tonight, man?
Hello, good night, good morning, whatever it is.
All
I'm
right,
all
and
backed up.
yeah, and we got Kraken released with us here today. How you doing, buddy?
Yeah, we're doing good. Thanks for
Awesome.
hosting.
Yeah, we're excited to be back, and we had a draft last Sunday, so definitely some things to talk about. So I guess we're just going to go through kind of really quick, go round by round on who we liked, some of the picks. We won't go too in depth on the teams, but just some picks that we liked in each round that we like. So, Dvets, I'll start with you. Just the first round. What picks did you like? What picks didn't you like? And were there any sleepers, or just kind of give us a rundown?
Okay. Um, so first round, there were obviously some good picks. You would think it would be the best people that went. There were some bad picks. I didn't have any problem with Pittsburgh taking Letton off first. He's a really good player. I think we had kind of pegged AG, or Schlarky, or some of the more known guys here is like the top pick, but I don't have any qualms with him as the first pick. Um, I don't mind the second or third picks. Really, Brana second is kind of a reach, but he's at least reliable. You know what you're getting, and he's not going to quit.
Yeah.
And he's still a first line player here. Um, Picks Colorado taking Uzi and Edmonton taking Lethal are probably the two worst picks by far of this first round. Um, you could have got Uzi probably in the fourth or fifth round, maybe even later, and Lethal. Well, we have our own experience with Lethal. I mean, he's not that bad of a player, but he's not a first round player.
You just stay on here for a second. Yeah, just working this.
Everything okay. We knew Seattle was going to take Langtot. That's their boy. Arizona getting Poppy eighth is probably the steal of the first round easily. You guys taking Burke, I honestly would have done the same exact thing with how he fell down to 12th, but he's being a giant dickhole. So hopefully he plays for you. I don't know. That sucks if he doesn't. Nashville taking G.I. Joe, who just moved to left wing right before the draft. I actually changed his sign up. He's one of the best defensemen in the draft. I'm assuming he's going to take AGM for them. And then Ottawa, I guess we can kind of get into the second round too, since we're at the bottom. Taking Brown Man Cannon in the first round, that's a bad pick. Another pick, they could have got him a lot later in the draft. And they got Schlarchi, which was a great pick. I figured he'd probably go top 5. But he's also being a giant douchehole. I just wish they would have got somebody that could really go out and cook boots with Schlarchi,
Yeah, back-to-back picks there. Like, I mean, with everybody left on the board, like you could have gone Schlarchi clutch, and that would have been, a playoff team almost. But, I don't know
there's a
about their
lot of
brown man
good
pick.
Kenbo, you got Kapanen, you got Dope Swag, there was multiple people out there, man. I don't know. I think I don't have a problem if they want to pick him, but pick him later. You can pick him later,
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head so far in the first round, and then with that, yeah, exactly. You had a double pick there, and you had Schlarky for sure, and you can pair him up with. So you could have even been a little bit of a quick reach out. Hey, who would you want with you? We're taking you. Who would you want with you? A little bit with that, and he can give a friend or something like that. But I mean, you probably don't expect him to drop that. I think the other thing about that is kind of an ego shot there. In the order they put them, I would just put Schlarky in the first round and Brownman came in the second, just for the ego boost. But it's just, that was kind of my thoughts on that.
In their defense, though, I don't think anyone expected him to fall that far. And also, you only have like a minute between picks. But, I mean, he's sitting there egoing them. These guys stink. But every single team other than them passed on him. So, there's your ego check, buddy.
All right, moving on to, I guess we'll kind of group like the 2 to 4 range. Um, I'll kind of start. I know us in Winnipeg, we were really surprised to have Dope Swag in the third round, at least late third round. He put up a crap ton of points in the AHL this year. So to have a talent like that, he's been around for a while. So we were very happy to get him. Um, yeah, no Kapanen. Toronto picking up no Kapanen in the third round. People have been saying that's a huge steal. Um, yeah, I don't know. What are you seeing, Dvetts, in the 2 to 4 range?
Um, I mean, I did release the power rankings. I kind of went over who I thought was like the best and worst picks for every team, but just going through, I think it's interesting. You really didn't see a natural left D come off the board till the third round, and you always know defense is super important. I think in general, some of the D men that were taken, there's really no problem. I think Bobby Orr was a reach just because he's a PSN guy. We don't know how trustworthy he's going to be in this league, being that he's a PSN guy first.
Could be a complete steal too.
He could be, yeah. I
Sure,
mean,
yeah.
it could be a great steal, but it's just an unknown. I don't know. As your first D man, do you want an unknown? But I guess Heisman did tell me he's buddies with who's going to be his AGM, so it's probably going to work out. Let's see.
I think it's obviously that to me, taking a look at the Uzi and then Speedy combo, is they were going for those guys play together a lot and going for that camaraderie and whatnot, and that just kind of chemistry of knowing each other. So Colorado at least had some thoughts behind what they were doing with that. I guess it's just maybe a little bit more knowing when you could have gotten those guys if you could just held off a little bit. But
yeah. I mean, to take Uzi SPD first, second round, like I had said, you can probably take them in the 6th, 7th round, and they still would have been there.
Yeah.
I had tried because we know Colorado, Boltsy and Ottawa, Newfie, they're the two like green, like completely new owners this season. I tried and tried, like, listen, look at my draft rankings. I know it was like a really short list and whatnot, but use the resources you have available to you. I know you guys probably played with them in club and you probably won a few games and whatnot, but it's the growing pains of owning. Hopefully they can get their team to, like you said, Colorado, they have the chemistry at least. Their third pick, Hebert, was a good pick. That was a good pick in the third round. Hope Legacy is, I've never played with him, but he's not a bad player from what I've heard. So Colorado, I mean, their first 2 picks were bad just because they could have taken them later. Just imagine if they would have gotten somebody like, where did they pick 4th? They could have picked Poppy and they could have picked like no Kapanen, and then boom, then you get those guys later and you have your first and second line. Just, things you got to learn as an owner around here.
100%.
Makes sense. What about GVNB? Looking at rounds 2 and 4, that's one that stands out.
Yeah, so I don't know who Pittsburgh is using for their AGM, but I'm guessing he's probably up there because I don't know what, like, we didn't want to touch him. I know me and Sandra didn't want to touch him because we didn't know if he was a goalie. We didn't really know him. We didn't think we could convince him to come play forward. But I mean, he's a top forward in this league. Definitely a top 4 round forward. So if they're planning on convincing him to play up front, that's a huge ad for Pittsburgh.
I personally don't know if he's a top 4 round forward. He's definitely like a great second line forward. But Pittsburgh's, I did look up some people. He's played. I think he was on their esports team with Benny. So he knows them. Pittsburgh pretty much drafted their whole esports team, which actually did horrible in esports if you look at their record. But I know that competition is better than here most of the time. So, yeah, GVNB is definitely going to be their AGM. There's no way he's not going to be their AGM. Otherwise, he'll be locked at goalie all season.
Right. All right. I guess let's wrap this up. We've been going a little late on the round by round. So I guess like 5 and onward, is there any huge misses that guys, didn't take in the first 4 rounds that should have been top 4 round talents? I mean, Pasternak going around 10, everybody's been saying that's a steal of the draft because he's been made AGM in Vancouver. Yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of names there. Is there anything that's sticking out to you guys? Kraken, we'll go to you first. Any names that stick out from 5 to 12?
Yeah, here, hold on 1 second. Yeah, you definitely kind of saw. Well, that's the goalie started popping out, so like, gotta give round, what was it, 10, some credit there for being the goalie round.
Yeah.
Yeah, big names back there. And kind of an angry cricket. I've seen him play pretty well. I wouldn't have been surprised to see him go a little lower. But no, yeah, I think it kind of fits with what I've seen. Okay. Yeah, I don't see any huge standouts there that were huge surprises that they were as late as that they weren't first 4 round picks.
And Dvetts, we'll go to you.
Just looking briefly through it, Jubes to Merck in the 7th round, fantastic pick. 6th round, you got Teglia and Moose Balls, both great picks. B-Bomb, great pick. I guess that Snowy guy's like an NHL talent level, but I think he got like permabanned or something from LG. I don't know. Slummy in the 9th round was a great pick. Knights of Chaos, we got him in the 8th round. He's always pretty solid. I think everyone else pretty much went where they were supposed to go. Sergeant Pepper in the 5th round he's a really good D-man. Yeah, I mean, I don't think anything else is like, holy crap, that guy went this late,
Yeah, I think we touched on most of them. But all right, we're going to get into individual team recaps now. We'll go a little bit longer on this and go a little bit more in depth on all the picks that a team made. So we're going to go start with the American division, and we're going to start with the Colorado Avalanche. I actually had Boltsy on for a little bit of an interview before this, so we're going to cut to that right now. Pleased to be joined on the call with Boltsy from Colorado. Boltsy, how are you doing today, man?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing all right. So we're going to rip the Band-Aid off right away. I'm just going to get right to it. There's a lot of criticism on your draft, but what were your thoughts on the day, and how do you think you guys did the draft?
I mean, to be honest, like I could see where people are coming from with the draft about how like how there wasn't much thought into it, but the thing is like I was going for players that like I know, and I went for players that I know can do good. So going for Uzi first overall was kind of like a controversy one. So he was kind of just one player that stood out. So he was kind of it's kind of just one of those picks that just I felt like if I don't take him, then I'm just going to be left out.
Okay.
So,
all right. And had you talked to Uzi beforehand? Did he know that he was kind of on your radar?
yeah, like so I did some scouting with him and like a few guys before, and I had my eye on him, and he knew that after he played some scouting games. So.
Okay, awesome. So I guess, yeah, coming into it, people say that you didn't have too much strategy, but what was your strategy? Did you want to, because I don't know your position or Savvy Collins, but were you trying to address forwards early or defense, or what was kind of the strategy coming into Sunday?
So my strategy was basically I need to build around. So I knew that I needed good forwards, but I also knew that there was going to be good defensemen like later into the rounds, like Heber. I think I picked him up like 6th or something, 6th round. And so that I was surprised that he was still there for being a decent defenseman. So it was kind of just going after forwards, and then it was like forwards, defense, and goalie all had their different like sections, and that was kind of what I was going for.
So now that you have your final roster, what players are you looking forward to most to seeing, and what players get you most excited on your team this year?
So two players I'm really looking forward to seeing are Uzi and Speedy because they're most likely going to be on the same line together. Still looking for that third forward for them, but apparently they've been playing for like years, so I'm looking forward to seeing that chemistry that they've built over the past like how many years that they've been playing with each other.
All right, last question for you. What's kind of your goal for this? Are you thinking that you can sneak into the playoffs there, or what's the general goal going into this season for you?
My general goal would be to prove everybody that's saying that my team is not going to work out at all, to prove them wrong. Make some moves, get some better players in there, get just fix up the roster where there needs to be fixes, and hopefully sneak into the playoffs and prove everybody wrong.
Awesome. Yeah, you can't go wrong with that goal. Well, I appreciate you taking the time, and best of luck this season, man.
Thank you.
All right, yeah, good interview with Boltsy there. Obviously, he's been getting a lot of flack over the past couple of days about his draft choices. And Dvetts, you went a little bit in depth on those first picks, or I guess the three of us did on their first couple picks. But let's go in depth with the whole team. Dvetts, what do you like about this team, even though there's not too much to like, but what are some things that they can definitely build on throughout the season?
Yeah, so I put them last in my power rankings for right now. Like you had said, Boltsy's been getting some flack. Despite that, though, like he's confident in his team. You know, he's holding with it. He, like I had said earlier, you know, he's got guys who have, they've played together before, so they have the chemistry. Like their third, fourth round picks were good. You know, Endo is a good guy. He's gonna stick around. Habs for life. We played with him the other night as a goalie. He actually wasn't terrible. I don't really know the rest of their roster. I've played with Rusty Cajones before. He's a TC. He's probably TC level. It's been a couple of years since I played with him, but he wasn't absolutely terrible. I think they could turn it around. They're probably going to be in the lower part of the standings after the first week, which means they're going to get a high pick in the late draft. And there's already like 5 people in the late draft that could probably be first or second round picks. So, you know, I just say if you have a rough week, help is coming. So, but I think they have at least one line they like for sure. They just need to get better players around that too, and hopefully these other guys who are pretty decent don't quit.
Kraken, anything to add there?
No, that pretty much summarizes. Yeah, if they can ride off some of that chemistry with Uzi and Speedy, that's going to be one of the big things for them, especially if you can get Endo and Stealth in there, helping out a little bit too. They'll probably get a few surprise wins in there, and maybe they won't be the dead bottom at the end. But with that lottery, I expect they'll probably be right there in the lottery system. For
sure. So we go to who Dvetts thinks is going to be the second last in that division, the Pittsburgh Penguins. They had the first overall pick. They take Letnov. I mean, I don't think there's much disputing there. He's one of the top players in this league. Kraken, how do you think the rest of their roster shapes up for that Pittsburgh Penguins roster?
Well, the question we talked about already was GVNB at goalie, and I have actually heard some good things about him in net, and that was his plan all along, and we were talking about that a little bit as staff. So that will be interesting to see, but if he's as good as I've heard, then that should be a positive for him and a good reason why they took him so early, especially if they do make him AGM. Teal is a very solid right winger, and I know he's got some high-level games under him too. That's really all I know. I've played with Alpha X Fallen when he was a goalie, so he and I didn't play at the same time. And obviously he's not playing goalie here, so that's really all I know for that lineup. So that makes it hard for me to really rate them well.
Dvetts, you said their worst pick was that Mighty Duck at number 2. you want to go in a little bit into that and why you had him there?
I had, like I said, I hadn't really researched anybody,
Right.
but I did look at him because I was like, dude, who the hell is this guy? And I looked at his LG stats and like I didn't see anything special, you know. I'm like, another guy that's probably in their friends group that they could have waited several rounds to take, and they could have took somebody like Dope Swag or somebody else. I think Kapanen, or I don't know who else was around, but yeah, looking at their roster, GVMB is their only listed goalie. I know Benny plays goalie, but maybe he will play some net for them. And then just reading in the chat, it looks like the Suggs Show actually has some decent stats, but I haven't looked at him. I don't really know anybody else. Yeah, I don't know. I just thought it was underwhelming, especially with having that first overall pick. You expect like a big, you know, like kind of like pow factor, and I think they kind of screwed up their second pick, and then third pick, fourth pick, okay, and I don't know. I just feel it was kind of mediocre.
All right, move on to Chicago. Again, like, you know, a little bit of a question mark at their first pick, but compared to other ones, not a terrible pick. I mean, Kuzvechnikov, he's a top line forward. Maybe not a second overall pick, but definitely. I mean, there was dispute over it in the main chat over the past couple of days. You know, he is a top 2-round player here. Yeah, just looking at their roster, I mean, they have an all right team, but you know, there's no it factor for me. There's no guy that can take over a game in a playoff series and like win you a series. So I don't know. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this Dvetts. You know, what do you think of this roster?
So yeah, we all agree. Vrana was a reach, second overall. Like you said, he's a top 2-round player, but maybe their mentality, they knew they weren't going to get him in the second round with the second to last pick.
Good point. Yeah.
Comet's a good forward. Green is a decent forward. Crazy Nick is a reach at D because he literally just bought the game like a couple weeks ago. He used to be a great D-man. He was on my team before. He fit in well with us. But I don't know how we know how NHL 21 is different compared to last NHLs, especially for D-men. So Sergeant Pepper was their best pick by far. I think, what is that, the 5th round? He's a great D-man. He's going to help them out on the blue line. Goalies are decent. Cardona, Gary. Kirby himself is an okay player. I don't know Shadow. I don't know. I think that they fell into the trap of just drafting their friends early again when they could have probably taken guys like Green and a couple rounds later.
Yeah, Kraken, anything to add on the Chicago Blackhawks there?
Yeah, I mean, I've seen Green play pretty well. I've played with him quite a bit, but again, he's someone who you may have been able to pick up later. I've been on teams with Gary, and he seems to have done well. But obviously, as goalies, we don't play at the same time, so I haven't actually seen him play. But yeah, this is another one where you get to the middle of the roster and you kind of go, well, I don't know exactly how this is going to fit in. So I kind of see them in about the same spot here towards the bottom of the league.
All right, and we move on to the projected playoff teams according to Dvetts. His own team, the Tampa Bay Lightning. We're going to start with Kraken here and get his take, but the question mark of the draft was definitely that second round pick. Obviously, a little bit of a mistake there, but I mean, it seemed like they were covered. Obviously, picking up Dvetts in the 5th round, that's a steal. I don't know what their plans are with Carnage, if they want to AGM. Obviously, I don't know, but he's a very solid defenseman. So if that's the plan,
he's AGMing. Yes.
Okay, so that, I mean, there's an AHL, NHL caliber defenseman right there. You look at Knights of Chaos in the 8th round. That's huge. Rebel played big minutes for us in Buffalo last season, and to get him in the 10th round, you know, he could be a very good goalie in this league. Kraken, what are you seeing with Tampa Bay that might get them into that playoff spot?
Well, I actually see them, and that's so I was Tampa last year, and I'm seeing a lot of similar names. So it's going to have to be that they break the mold from last year, right? So last year, one of our biggest issues we had was the first line really and where they ended up playing and not playing, and just kind of showing up for random games, kicking people out, taking the spot. But then really our second line ended up playing a lot of the first lines of other teams and kind of hit or miss, and we just weren't able to get it done. So that first line is really going to have to step up if they want to make the playoffs here. And so instead of Clutch, you see names like Gervais, and instead of Parksy, you got Saquon in there. So it's going to be, can that first line really make the difference? Because I'm nervous about the second line just from having played with them and struggled with them last year, that they just have to break through what they were in last year. So I'm kind of worried about them for that reason, because I see so much similarity to last year's team.
Dvetts, you have the floor.
Okay. So my team, a couple of big differences is we know Real J Money was basically the owner last season because Clutch didn't really do much, but this time he has significant help with Tribe. Tribe's managed teams before. He's managed good teams before. He knows what he's doing, despite the stupid ass blunder of picking the wrong Iggy in the second round. Like, come on, dude. Like, you gotta be kidding me.
Well, it all started. He just put Iggy. Like, if he put Iggy to Glizzy in, like, people would probably question it. He might be able to repick, but like, just putting Iggy. Anyway.
Well, I was at work and I had heard that happened, and some people were saying like, he obviously meant the other Iggy, but I don't know what happened. I didn't even get to my phone until after the draft was over, but I have heard some people say he's actually not a bad player, so maybe he can fit in on the second line pretty well. But I actually don't really mind the roster. I think if we would have gotten that stud in the second round, we probably could be a top 5 team. Gerby, break easy, solidified studs, love the picks. I've heard Mr. Sauce is a good player. I don't know if him or Knights are going to fit in on the first round or first line. Our defense, you got me, Carnage, Saquon, and Tribe. I think that's a pretty solid core. One of us is going to have to play right D, rotating right D. That's fine. And I actually think our second line isn't. I think Burton in the last round was actually probably the best pick of the last round. I know he's not who he used to be. His name was KT. He used to be really, really good player. He's kind of fallen off a little bit, but he still has the IQ and for a last round pick, like, to fit in on the second line so easily. You got Burton, Knights, and Real J Money as a second line. It's really not that bad. I've seen a lot worse second lines in this league. So I think we're better than people give us credit for, but I think we're missing maybe that one more like legit stud that can score, and we'll be set.
All right, we move on to the Nashville Predators. You have them there at third in the division there, Dvetts. Go to you. They picked up your boy Barrett. Also a couple more nice additions throughout their draft. So what did you like about them, and why'd you put them third?
Well, third in the US, but
yeah.
So I kind of touched on earlier, G.I. Joe, fantastic D-man. He's probably going to AGM for them, I would assume. I don't know how he plays offense, but Barrett in the second round, we know personally that he's probably one of the best offensive defensemen in the league. But that being said, he's also only offensive. So, it's hard to get him unless it's a really serious game to really stay back. All-Star Bear, last year's Vezina winner, but I think he wants to play defense. So they went defense heavy first. Rebels, one of their buddies. Hughes, Baker, they're okay. Mac Dog's going to play goalie. Jay Champ, good D-man. So they have good defense. Ziggs and Rob are both. Ziggs is probably a first-line player. Rob is like a borderline first, second liner. I think they have really good defense and goaltending, but I don't think they really have much forward-wise other than Ziggs. And I think Ziggs, Rob, and Rebels is probably their first line. They're probably going to have problems scoring.
Kraken, anything to add for the Predators?
I know I've seen Chicken Lakes play up at wing and put in some good goals. At defense, I haven't seen him play so much, but he can't really play up front. I don't know if he'll play offensive from the defensive spot. They might be a pretty offensive defensive team. Spider Monkey, I've seen him put in a few on me, so I'll give him some credit on that. But yeah, very defense and goalie heavy. And I guess the nice thing is if they're having issues, you can have All-Star Bear jump in net. You can have, like you said, Mac Dog. So they have a lot of options to fill in with the goalie. And move things around within the position lock.
Yeah, interesting note that Guggen is the only goalie that they took in their roster. So maybe we'll see what happens with All-Star Bear. Maybe might get a couple looks there. And also Hughes and Baker, I think they played in the CHL together. I think they're in Mississauga. So a little bit of chemistry coming together on that second line. I guess we'll see how they do. We go to the Seattle Kraken. I'm gonna be honest, nothing against their draft, but I'm surprised people have them that high. I love Campe, great guy. I don't think he's a fifth round pick. I think Taglia is a better pick than that. I think these guys have second line problems. Their first line looks really good. That's gonna be, they can be up there with the other first line. But I think in a playoff series, especially, they're gonna have problems with that second line and consistency and putting up goals. But I could be wrong. What do I know? Dvetts, we'll go to you. Your thoughts on Seattle and why you had them at second in this conference.
Okay, so it's kind of like a repeat of last season, like roster structure wise. They made it to the finals last season. Kudos to them. They had that really good first line. The first line is going to be really good again. Second line's kind of lacking a little bit, but I think they did reach on Fire Phoenix. I know they really, really love him, and like I said in my thing, he's one of the nicest guys. He's always available, so there is equity in that. And then they have Wolfie again. Bertuzzi's a good D-man, so they got 3 of their D-men right there that are going to be on their roster all season. You got Pizza and Langcott solid on the first line. Like you said, Campe was probably one of their worst picks because they could have split. Getting Taglia and Donks after that, though, probably their 2 best picks. Taglia is a great player. He's probably going to play first line with Pizza and Langcott, and Donks is he's a good player too. I guess Cricket might fill in with them. I don't know. They might have some goaltending issues because I know Kong plays goalie, but I don't Lockyer. I don't really know if he's that good. I'm not sure. I think it's a similar circumstance to last season. They always have bring a good team. They're always underrated. Their first line carries, but I think their second line is better than people think.
Okay, Kraken. Your thoughts on the Kraken?
So I feel a little shafted not being drafted by them. I felt like I was a perfect fit for the organization. Somehow I never end up on the Kraken since the Kraken has become a thing. But no, that said, it's last year's team with some highlights. I mean, Kempe, but he can be a very solid player. I played with him quite a bit. Taglia and Donks behind that. So, like you said, if Kempe was maybe earlier than he could have been, those fill in right nicely behind that with Angry Cricket. And then I have probably one of the top 3 best goalie games I've ever seen. And again, I can only watch the other goalies, so I only see myself and the other guy in any given game. But was from Lapierre. I just know I've heard other people say, really, when I tell them that. But yeah, that guy can lock it down. So I expect they should have a pretty solid squad here, and they look pretty deep to me. And I would put them right there to be back again.
Okay, yeah. I do think they do have the second best roster. So I guess we'll see if they come up against Arizona, how well they do and what kind of changes they can make, or if they keep the same team throughout the regular season. But we go to the before mentioned Arizona Coyotes. You have them at the top of the U.S. division. I don't think anybody else can disagree with you. What a draft they had. And obviously just to have Blissey Goblin as the free contract on GM. These guys, they're the real deal, and they're going to be coming for the championship, especially the U.S. title. Kraken, we'll go to you. What were some big players that you thought they picked up, and what do you like most about this lineup?
Yeah, so one of the big things I see with it, when I just look immediately, and I was with Czech Republic 2 seasons ago, is they have the core of their first line from that team back together again. So kind of like we saw with Vancouver in this draft, after they took the championship, a few of those guys ended up on other teams. And, maybe the chemistry wasn't the same there. Obviously, I know Smitty went to Montreal, and that was whatever it was. But seeing a lot of that Czech team back together again gives me some thoughts that, and that was really, I play behind that lineup a lot in league and in club games, and it was super solid. So I just see having that unit back together and then adding Poppy and Lizzie, it's going to be a solid team. I've got them right as my number one.
Dvetts, on to you.
I could see why people would put them at number one. They did have a really solid draft. There wasn't really any head scratchers at all. Like you had said, Kraken, they got their first line from a couple of seasons ago right now on their team, but that first line is this team's second line. So you got Poppy, Kenbo right there is like your 1-2 punch, like bam, they have what's his name? Varley or Barley? I don't know what the hell.
Varlamov, yeah.
That's the Russian spelling of Varlamov.
Yeah.
They got him as their top goalie. They got depth that they got Trapp, Smitty, Senior. Willard was a great pick late. I heard that Baldy, whatever his name is, actually isn't terrible. They have the depth at the end. They have the star power at the top. I think their weakest link is their owner on the ice. So, Silky, he's an okay player, but he's like borderline second line type of talent. But he knows to take a step back and what's good for the team. So I think that they are a serious threat.
All right.
I've seen Silky play well too, so I'll give him. I wanted to give him that. I will say I've seen him play well. So we'll have to see. Sometimes he gets a little Tourettesy on the sticks, but I think he can hold up fine at least on that second line there. That'll help him out not being on the top line.
For sure. And we also got to caught up with Glizzy Goblin before this. So we're going to cut to that interview right now. Pleased to be joined by Glizzy Goblin. How you doing, man?
I'm doing good, buddy. How about you?
Yeah, doing great. So thank you for accepting the interview, and just want to get your thoughts on the draft. I mean, I think everybody has praised your guys' draft back on Sunday. My first question is, like, how excited were you when you saw AG still on the board at number 8?
Dude, so me and Moss were in a Zoom call ourselves, and we were laughing because I got a whole printout, top 10 players. I had my draft board set. Was looking at stats on everybody. Obviously, AG is a guy I've known for a while. Played with him here and there in club with Hufu and Tibbs and those guys, but never been on a team with him. So our original target was Letnoff, and obviously that was, who knows if he's going to fall to us anyway, but fucking watching AG, 2 goals, 3 goals, 4 goals, 5 goals, we're like, oh shit, he might fall. Yeah. And the only one I knew who was going to take was probably Seattle. I knew they were going to go back to Langtot, which, it's a great pick. Langtot's a great guy. So, but yeah, to have AG fall into our laps, I know he was a little fucking pissed off because pretty sure he wanted to end up with Cavi and Jobo, but too bad for him. He's winning a cup in Arizona. So
awesome. And then, I mean, your next few picks, nothing to slight about. I mean, maybe talk about Kembo and Schlemko and DTG. Like, how excited were you to see that those guys are still on the board in the coming rounds?
Oh, it was great, man. Yeah, it was great. We had a lot of guys on the list, so we were pretty comfortable no matter what happened. If any curveballs got thrown, Kenbo was a guy that was one of the few guys I actually talked to pre-draft, and pretty much all he really wanted was make sure to get him some line mates. So that was our target, especially getting AG. We're like, all right, we're pretty comfortable with that. But yeah, Kenbo was a guy. When I was doing a lot of my looking up of stats on LG, because I mean that was the first move I went was let's see who's got stats. That's not everything because some guys get carried, some guys end up on a shit situation, but it plays a factor. If a guy's putting up 100-point season, he's worth a look. And Kenbo put up like 77 points in the A. He had like 81 in the Sharks gaming tournament. Positive win losses, positive plus minus. So I was like, all right, these guy's a hit, and he can play center, he can play wing. So the biggest thing for me, and I learned this from playing with Pothead and Earthshaker for so long, was draft versatility, draft guys that can play damn near anywhere, because in a pinch, that's going to save your team. That's what got us to the conference finals last year, was having guys rotate, play different positions, play with different lines, be comfortable all around. So getting him was great. Then Schlemko obviously was another guy. He's got deep experience in the N and the A. played in the C this year, tore it up. Played on Vancouver last year with that loser fucking Bergie and Maltese, but had a good season there. So we looked at him. We're like, fuck it, let's finish out the line, draft the top line first. We originally thought going, center, wing, defense, lock it up, and then grab another winger because we were pretty deep on wing. Center, we knew a lot of those guys were gonna go early. But yeah, DTG was another guy. I met him through Moss, and we drafted a lot of Moss's buddies, a lot of guys that won that international tournament, went deep last year in the playoffs. And another Norris candidate besides me didn't win it. We know who did, but but it was a great draft, and I mean we hit every pick, and we were laughing watching some of the picks that guys took. Shout out Colorado, you guys tried. But a lot of teams had some good drafts. I felt like we hit on every single pick. I was happy with what we had, is what we could do with rotations and lineups and different matchups. So yeah, overall it was sick.
So you mentioned some other teams had some good drafts. I'm going to ask you, I mean, I think you guys are my favorite coming out of that US division. We'll see what happens in the final because there's some good Canadian teams, but who do you see as the biggest threat against you guys in the US division, and then maybe also for a Stanley Cup final matchup in the Canadian division?
You have to look at the teams real quick. I would say, before I even look at the teams and who I would say my biggest threat is, I would say best draft probably has to go to Toronto. It's Cavi, it's Jobo. You already have it locked up. Number one D pair. They're both studs, both great guys too. They drafted great. They got a lot of guys that were on my list. A lot of guys were NHLers, AHLers, guys that are going to produce, be sick. I thought you guys had a solid draft for kind of where you were at in the pickings, and obviously even still with what happened with Burke, I mean, you guys still have a pretty solid roster. I know you got some flack for losing Burke, but I still think you guys are dangerous. So Cougar is going to be good, obviously. I don't know how, because Maltese and Bergie are just such fuckheads, but I love the guys. They know how to draft, and they do it well, and they bring a lot of guys in. So looking at the list here, I would say our biggest competition in the US division is probably going to be Seattle. Me and Colin can go back and forth in the manager chat a few times, but the guy knows how to build a fucking team, so you really can't bust his balls too hard. And Romo pretty much molested me at the entire Game 7 last year in the conference finals, gave me my worst game of the season. And yeah, I'm still not living that down with Earthshaker and Pothead throwing gifts of me getting knocked out in a boxing match, tagging me as Game 7 Glizzy. So looking at some other teams just quick, I mean, Nashville, Rob and Ziggs, great guys. They're going to be good. I worry about, they drafted all buddies, a lot of guys that I play with, and they're good, but, you never know how that's going to shake out. Friend teams usually don't make it too far, which is a lesson I've learned from every team I've been on. Another team probably going to be good is Calgary. Calgary's going to be good. You got Aces, stud goalie. They built a really good team. A few guys that, were on my list, but I wasn't, questionable concerns, moral ethics and such. But no, they're going to be good. And so I just got to give a quick shout out to Tampa Bay, locking up Iggy. Great pick.
Huge pickup right there.
Absolute stud. I don't know how you can't miss. It's a fire hit
in the second round. Oh my,
dude! What a steal of talent. Can we talk about it? Like, holy fuck! Yeah. Did Tribe absolutely execute this draft strategy perfectly?
Yeah. All right, my last question for you. We'll wrap things up here. Obviously, just looking back at last season, you had a crushing Game 7 loss for the conference final, and Moss, a very similar situation in round 1. What's going to be the biggest factor for you guys coming in this year to get you over that hump into that Stanley Cup final?
I guess I would say the biggest thing is, the regular season's one thing. You obviously want to win games, get a good standing. But we just got to make sure our matchups are good. You got to make sure you line match well, because if you don't line match well, you get fucked in those Game 7s. Even though we had our best lineup out, I came in off a flight. I landed that same night, hopped in the game, and played like shit. So the biggest thing is going to be availability too, making sure everybody is able to play, locked in, ready to buzz. Because, you know, if you have guys that, some guys, they show up for playoffs and not the regular season. Some guys disappear in playoffs. So, you know, if we get stuck with shit avail, which as of right now, everybody in our Discord is active and they're ready to go. They're active trying to play and shit. So we think we're gonna be good that way. I guess the other thing is probably just matchup too. You don't want to draw the strongest team right away. So getting that regular season top standing and staying near the top, so you can maybe coast through that first round and not have to worry about, you know, playing 3 straight teams of biggies.
Right. For sure. All right. Well, I appreciate you taking the time, and I wish you the best of luck coming up in the season, man.
Yeah. Out of the way, Soupy. See you later, buddy.
So as you see in that little interview clip there, Glizzy just basically reiterating the same things that we were saying, you know, just top to bottom, a very good draft by Arizona. Now we go to the Canadian division. Go to the Ottawa Senators. We talked about them a little bit earlier in the episode, about those first 2 picks, and, you know, how they made some all right picks in the middle, but they're dealing with some ego issues to start. We're going to go to Dvetts. What's your forecast for this team? What do you see? What do you like? What do you don't or not like? And what is the Ottawa Senators this season?
Well, I see a lot of trouble there, Soup.
All right.
It's not looking too hot off the bat.
Can't say I disagree with you. All right.
That being said, I think Newfie and Jiffy both they do have a fantastic attitude. You know, they are positive people. They're having problems with their team. Like you had said, they made some good picks. They made some dumb picks, but they made some good picks. Getting Schlarchi in the second round is fantastic, but he's got his head so far up his ass he can't even see anything. So, you know, he's like, "Oh, I'm not going to play there." You know, people that do that, if all the people that say that on their team aren't going to play would play, they would probably be a pretty decent team. You know, CNS is going to AGM for them probably. He's going to help them get, you know, either trades or at least in the late draft, the appropriate people. So again, you know, just like Colorado, help is coming. You know, it's not the end of the world. I've seen teams that have sucked that got pretty good. You know, like just think last season. You have Chicago. They were awful like the first couple weeks, and then they ended up beating us in the first round. So, you know, it's not the end of the world. I think my favorite liar is their goalie. Fantastic pick. I honestly think getting Kidney Bean in the 10th round, fantastic pick. You know, he's not the best D-man in the world, but you know, he is a starting top 4 D-man in this league. You know, and you got you have a decent decor. You have Schlarchi, you have Killzone, who I think was not a good pick. He was a stretch, but he still has the IQ. You know, it's like they're not awful. They just, you know, if they would have followed the draft board a little bit better, they could have been a lot better.
Kraken. I believe Kraken is getting a talking to here. Yeah, no, yeah, it's tough because, you know, their draft wasn't that great, but I think different from Colorado, there are some, you know, there are a couple spots where it's like, oh, okay, like, you know, they made the right choice there.
They have good players. Yeah. You know, it's like they missed on the opportunity really in that first, you know, they have that wheel pick. You could have got Schlarchi and someone else, you know, bam, bam right there.
Right. And I think my favorite liar, I think we found out with Florida last year. I mean, he could probably carry an average team to the playoffs. So, and also like true alchemist, sorry, I should say, solid CHL season this year. He's probably, you know, maybe a starting goaltender, probably definitely a backup. So to get him in the TC draft, I think, you know, he's going to get the call pretty soon. And yeah, I mean,
I did play a couple of games with Clamps, who was like almost at the back end of the TC draft, and where he was drafted, like the 5th round in the TC, he's not that bad. I mean, he's not probably, you know, a difference maker, but you know, they have people who actually have some thumbs. So,
right. We go to Edmonton, Res 24, drafting that team. Again, another team with a questionable first-round pick, but similar to Chicago. Well, I guess a little bit lesser version of Chicago. I mean, a guy that's probably going in the top 5 rounds somewhere. So he's not an absolute trash player in Lethal Sniper. So, he'll probably lead that first line. Detect Stealth, that's, there's a question mark there whether he's still got it or, what to expect out of him, but it could be a steal. I like Lefty in round 7. He had a really good CHL season this year. I know he's a all right defenseman. We didn't really get to see his true colors because he was stuck with Calgary last season. Trump, very interesting pick at 9th, right wing. We'll see what happens there, but not a terrible lineup. I don't know if it can really compete with the other teams other than Ottawa in this conference. Kraken, are you there?
Yeah, I'm back.
All right.
Yeah.
Thoughts on Edmonton? We'll go to you.
All right. So Edmonton, yeah, looking through, I don't know a ton of the names on here. So, I mean, we'll see how some of these names that have been hyped up a little bit to me, like Craftsman and Tech Stealth, if they can hold it down as a first line. Then I think they actually might have a decent second line if they can put Snook and Trump and Lefty together. I think they may have a chance to win a couple, but I don't see them being a whole lot better off than some of the options we talked about already with Colorado and Ottawa. So just a lot of too many people I don't know.
Very fair. We go to Dvetts. Thoughts on the Oilers?
Just kind of mediocre. I think their draft is better overall than Ottawa's. I also think their management is better skill-wise, which obviously helps, but I don't think like Ottawa has Schlarchi. They have, a couple of people who can, take over a game. I think Lethal with the 5th overall pick, huge mistake. They could have took someone like Poppy or something, we had multiple NHL guys available at that point. I think Lethal is more suited as a and you saw it last season on our team. He kind of fed off of the other better players on the line. Like he's a good complementary player. He's not like a good go-to carry the puck in kind of player.
Oh, he's like me then.
But you got Craftsman, which was a good pick for the 3rd round. I don't know what his availability is like, but usually it's kind of sketchy. It was a good pick. B-Bomb, great pick where they got him. Their defense really isn't that bad at all. I just see problems with offense. Trump on locked into right wing is not good. Monk, that monster, and I guess their goalie is going to be Petrie and Goat Demon. I don't know, underwhelming, man.
Mm-hmm. All right, we head out east to the Montreal Canadiens. This is Bogey's team. It's kind of a theme with some of the teams we talked about before, picking up your friends. This is Kraken's team, so I'm going to let him go first. Some good picks at the top, and they might struggle with some depth, but I mean, not a terrible team. Definitely going to be challenging for a playoff spot. Kraken, how do you feel to be a Montreal Canadian?
Yeah, so this will be interesting because got Cubs I don't know, but I've heard good things about, and I played a little bit with Baby Goat in Summer 18. I know they're solid, and they were with Vancouver last year, but I haven't played with most of these guys. I've seen them around. Dvetts being another goalie, I've seen him put up some good games. We'll see how Walshy does it at winger out of the net there. But a lot of these names, Ilmatic, I've heard good things about. Doust, I think I've seen him in net, but not really played against him. And Killabeat's another one. I've only seen him one time, so it's really hard for me to rate. But we're gonna have to see how we can put it together. Yeah, I think I have us pretty much middle of the pack unless we really get going. That front line with Cubs and Goat and Summer 18 could be pretty lethal if we can get things going right.
All right, go to Dvetts.
Yeah, so Montreal's a weird team to me. I could see them sucking, but I could also see them being better than I think. Their first 3 picks, they went forward, and then they pretty much just took people that they know. I like their first line. I think their first line is, I don't know much about them. They might be a little bit worse than other first lines. Their second line might be a little bit better than other second lines. I don't know. It's hard to tell. You know, I think the top end of the Canadian division is totally stacked, and it's going to be hard to get past the top 3 teams. They're probably going to be. I would predict that they're firmly in the 4th spot. But don't forget, you got Mr. Shafty there in the first round of the TC. He wanted everyone to know he's got 32,000 RP. He's a beast. So, you know,
he also said he's an LGAHL player, but he's not. Like, just go look at his stat page. He's not.
Hey, 32,000 RP.
Oh, fuck. Oh, yes. I'm sorry. Can't doubt his skill. But
put some fucking respect on his name.
Oh my God. Yeah. No, for sure. Yeah. I mean, it's between them and Calgary, I think, for that 4th spot. But I mean, Calder Cubs, I think, you know, we had him high up on our draft board. I can't remember his stats off the top of his head, but definitely a go-to player, a guy that can probably steal a game. Go to Calgary now. You have Calgary getting that 4th spot in Canada in the Canadian division. We mentioned before possibly a stretch with the Bobby Orr, but also probably, you know, one of the best picks of the draft. We'll never know. We'll have to see. I like Sizzle at 5 behind Plank. That's going to be a very good 1-2 punch, maybe one of the better ones in the league. Not a bad draft. Obviously, Heisman Award is helping out Golden Aces, but they did really well with this one, in my opinion. Dvetts, we'll start with you. What are you liking with the Albertans, the Flames there?
So I think the middle of their draft was good. Sizzle in the 4th round, that's probably appropriate for where he should go. Ottawa, Snowy, Bush Latte. You know, Bush is like the gem of the league, man. That dude, solid. He's a good player, and he's a great dude. I don't know their top 2 picks. Like, that Scum dude was just confirmed right before the draft started. On the same day, and Plank, I don't know anything about. I mean, obviously these, you know, Aces is bringing these guys in, so maybe they'll be better. And Heisman had said he's probably the worst forward on their team. I think Snowy has some ego issues, maybe. I don't know. I think I heard he was banned. Pocket Deuces later, I played some games with him. He seemed okay as a goalie. I know Aces is probably their number 1 goalie.
For sure.
I don't know. They could be really good. They could not be really good. I don't know a lot of their players.
Kraken, on to you.
Yeah, so taking a look at it,
we had him. He's cutting out. Can you hear him, Kraken? Are you there? Getting some technical difficulties.
PlayStation.
Oh,
Sizzle's good in there. Yeah, the bottom 4 or 5 picks I don't know much about, but the top like 7 or 8, I actually had these guys probably coming in right about the 4th or 5th spot in the league. I think their TCs will be able to help out a lot if they do get in trouble. I've seen some of those guys around and play pretty decently, so that's a pretty deep TC line.
Not a bad showing by the Calgary Flames, and they'll be definitely pushing for a playoff spot in this Canadian Conference. All right, we go to my team. Mine and Sandoz. I mean, we were very happy after Sunday. Things have changed. We've, we were happy with our draft. I know personally we had the 12th pick and then the 3rd pick of the 2nd round. So we made a list of our top 17 players on who we thought, who would fall to us in those picks. And we got 4 of those players. So in the first 4 rounds. So we were very happy. Obviously, we just confirmed with Jarvis that he's going to be our AGM. So he signed up as right wing, but he's an AHL talent on defense. So we're going to be pushing him back there whenever we can. Yeah, we picked up Slummy late. We're very happy with Captain Cobra. He's got like almost 500 games in the NHL. I mean, 6 is my buddy. I'm going to be playing with him all year. I like our draft. It's just tainted with what happened with our first pick. But I mean, you guys can rip us apart. I want to hear your input on how we thought or how you thought we did. Dvetts, you go ahead with the Jets.
So before hearing about what was going on, I thought you guys had a fantastic draft and your top 4 team and cup contender right off the bat. Can of whoop ass in the second round. Apparently, is a very good player. I don't know him personally. Getting dope swag in the late third round.
Yeah, late third.
One of the steals of the draft. I think the King Natsu and CJC Cobra's goalie tandem is the best in the league. They're both NHL caliber defense or goalies. Sorry. Your defense, you got. You guys got to figure it out, because if Jarvis is playing right D, you got Whoopass, Polska, and him on right D. You got Jay on lefty, who's a solid left defenseman.
Yeah, Polska is going to be playing a little bit of lefty. I think that's kind of where we're going to have him on with Canada best. So that'll work out for our top pairing. But yeah.
But you're and it's not a blunder. And I would have, if I was picking 12th and Burke fell to me, I would have took him, and before Kinney even announced our name. I was like, holy crap, that guy fell all the way to you.
Yeah.
But he's egoing you guys, which doesn't make any sense at all, because Sando's like one of the only NHL level players that's management. Like, I don't get it. Like, what the fuck does he want? It's so ridiculous that people do that to teams. It's why even sign up? But I can go on a rant for like 20 minutes about that crap. It pisses me off. But, even without him, you guys are still like a top team. I just feel like if you had him, like a Sando Burke, dope swag top line would be filthy. It's just
for sure
unfortunate.
Kraken, we go to you. What are your thoughts on my Jets?
I still have some hope there that Berkey will come around. I mean, I know that there's some connections there in the NHL that may help him realize how strong that team is. I mean, you definitely can't say that lineup isn't strong. It's one of the fullest through lineups that I see, where picking even in the late rounds, getting 6. And I don't know Cobra, but just hearing you guys talk about him, sounds like solid and slummy right before that. Like, these are some really good late picks that have potential to be even top line on other teams. So if Berkey comes to that realization, I think he may come around, and you may have yourself a strong contender here.
Yeah, I think Dvetts, you put it very well. Like, with Berkey, we're a cup contender, but like with not or without him, like, we're still good, just maybe not in that tier. I 100% agree with you. It kind of takes the winds out of your sails when your first pick doesn't show up for you, but at the same time, I mean, dope swag is definitely a top 2-round pick. We're happy with our defenseman. Natsu and Ned is probably one of the better goalies. Like, I mean, we're gonna be all right. Who do we go to next? We go to the defending champions. Oh boy, the Vancouver Canucks, the self-proclaimed number 1 team by their GM Bergie. But you have them at number 2 in this division, or this conference, I should say. They go defense early. They go ass kicka, and then they get clutch in the second round, which is a big pickup. And then they start to get their boys. They get Phantom. They get Chastain. I mean, they got some good picks. They're going to be strong again this year. Dvetts, we go to you. What are you thinking on the defending champions?
Yeah, I put them second just because I think Toronto's disgusting. But I would put them, Toronto, and Arizona as your top 3 like flight teams right now, just based on all the info we have currently. Taking ass kicker first, not too surprising. One of the best defensemen in the league. Kind of like surprising that they didn't go Schlarchi, because they always say he's like, oh, he's so good. They took him, I think, like 4th or 7th or whatever last season, and they kind of passed on him this season. I guess they wanted more D. Getting clutch in the second round, clearly probably a top 6-7 overall talent, but he has severe availability issues. Phantom, third round, probably. I've never played with him. Like, I got him muted in the chat, because if he's not muted, he's probably going to get banned because he's an idiot. But I'm doing them a favor on that. Yeah, and their late round picks, well, not even late, but you got Agostopoulos, Dubes to Merck, fantastic pick. Pasta, willing to AGM, and if he's not going to be playing goalie, he'll be playing forward, who is probably a top 2-round pick forward. That they're good, they're good up and down. They're a cup contender again.
Kraken, anything to add on the defending champions?
You're muted, buddy.
Oh, I can't get the mute.
I clicked it like 5 times. It wouldn't turn off. Okay. Anyway, so looking at Vancouver's lineup, they did lose, like I said at the start, a lot of their guys from last season due to you win the cup and everyone wants your people, right? But they picked up Eskika and Clutch. Yeah, they let Schleicher go. Maybe they knew he was going second round. I don't know. But following up, they picked up with a lot of good guys throughout the whole draft. Kodanov is the one they're vouching for. I know in the past he's got some of the most amazing hands. He just has been called out in the past for not passing, but he makes up for it with his skill. But as long as they can work with that, supposedly he is passing a lot more now. That could be a really solid second line right winger. I played with him a ton. I think he's one of the better hands or probably the best hands I've ever seen in the game. But he just has to work well with the team. I find it interesting the number of goalies they had on their team. So having Pasta come out in AGM and probably not play goal probably won't hurt them at all on that front. So they were probably pretty well prepared for that if they didn't just hide them.
100%. All right, we go to the final team in the rankings. You have them at number 1, Dvetts, and I think everybody should. Berge, you might not, but I mean, you can't shy away from Jobo and Cavi. Like that's just your first D pair, both NHL talents. And then with their first 3 picks, they grab NHL talents for 3 forwards, and then they get Jay Piss at goaltending, who's in AHL at least. He's probably going to be NHL very soon. So I thought a very solid draft by 2 very solid players. This team, it's scary. I think everybody in the league should be scared of them. First line, second line, whatever they put out there, they're going to be good. Dvetts, we'll go to you. What are your thoughts on Toronto?
So Sempa's going to play. He's AGMing. He's going to play defense. No surprise there at all. He's boys with them. So you got your Cavi, Jobo, Semp, Pylon, D-core, best D-core in the league by far. You got Breezy and Kapanen, 2 of the best forwards in the league. They got Kapanen in the 3rd round somehow. I've heard Breezy is toxic, but being that he's been on Jobo's team in LG, he's probably the only team that they would play for, so they got him. You got your second line of Zane, and then you got Wagner, and I don't know Goose, but I know Ellie's a pretty solid player. That's a very good pick for how far down they got him. You're going to have problems scoring on them. And if you had a knock, maybe, Breezy starts being toxic and they don't have that forward depth you think they do. But I don't really see a chink in the armor.
Kraken, final thoughts on the final team at the top of the rankings on the Maple Leafs there.
Yeah, pretty solid all the way through. A couple of the names I don't know as well as you guys do, but that first line is going to be really hard to beat. I think as long as they can hold together, maybe they can take that number 1 spot like you guys think. I had them a little lower because I just think a couple of these other teams are really strong as well. So we'll see how it plays out, especially as a bunch of the top 6, probably 3 to 4 of the top 6 teams are probably in that Canadian conference. So they might knock each other down a notch, especially depending what lines we see facing up against each other. Might also see some choices having to be made about who's playing who depending on the week as teams max out. So that could mix things up too. But they could definitely take that number 1 spot. I had a couple of the other teams being right there with them, Arizona and Vancouver. I wouldn't be surprised to see even Calgary or Winnipeg right there with them. But all 6 of those, I think, have a good shot at it.
All right. That is all the teams that we have. Go take a look at Dvetts' power rankings. He's got a little bit of a write-up on each team there. Any last thoughts or comments on these teams or anything you got, boys, before we head off?
Just even if you have a bad first week, stick with it. I've said it a couple of times. I can't stand people that ego and quit on their teams, especially when we have it in place to where if you have a bad first week, you're going to get a higher pick in the first late draft. Help's coming. You're going to get good players. as long as you're smart and you do your research, it's not over after the first week. We've seen plenty of teams be bad at the beginning that came out and won playoff series. So, I just wish there was some way we could try to get these guys to play. I don't know what to do. It's rough.
Yeah. If you think about it, like we're doing a lottery for the bottom 3 teams in the late drafts. So you got a team that could potentially, 1 week gets that 1 spot. And then maybe even again 2 weeks in a row and comes out really strong, or even just after that first week and pushes up, because the playoffs, you're not that far out of it at that point. You can easily push your way up. So I think a lot of those top teams, I'll add Seattle to the list that I said before, might see some competition late from some of these teams that pick up guys who do come in late. So we'll see. I think hopefully we see some of the most parity that we've seen in this league in a while, especially with some of those late draft picks going to some of those teams.
For sure. But season starts this Sunday. Very excited. I don't know about you guys, but to get the season going. And yeah, that's all the time the 3 of us have. But if you've made it this far, thank you for tuning in. And we really appreciate it. And obviously to my co-hosts, appreciate you guys coming on. And good luck the rest of the season, boys.
Yeah, you too, guys.
Yeah, good luck, everyone.